This episode of the MLB Guardcast is sponsored by Sadnap Studios. Are you in need of assistance when it comes to digital arts, logo creation, website design, brand building, or designing merch? Then look no further than Sadnap Studios. The team at Sadnap Studios wants to help and make your dreams into reality. Everything is original and organically created, nothing AI. You can follow them and check out some of their incredible work on Instagram at sadnap_studios_art drop. Thanks again to the folks at Sadnap Studios. Go Guards. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for a new episode of the MLB Guardcast. This episode 39. I am Mike Vorhies. With me, as always, the greatest co-host on the planet and he just celebrated a birthday, Bryan Shaw.
Thank you. Yes.
Bryan, how are you, sir?
The last year of my 30s.
Oh,
I'm
well.
getting up there.
Yeah, geez, I'm 42, brother. I forgot I'm older than you. I forgot that I am older than you. Bryan, we told the fans that we would come back if we had some news, and by golly, it is hot stove season, and apparently it is on fire. The Guardians made a move, a very surprising move. I will say I was stunned, shocked, speechless. And then after a 24 to 48 hour period where I could sit back and just research, I'm actually happy about this trade. I'm very
Oh,
excited.
interesting.
So
That's a
Bryan,
different
yeah,
tone that you had. Was it even a week ago?
it
Not.
was Tuesday night when the trade happened. Bryan, go ahead, break it
Yeah.
down for
So
us.
I agree. So obviously you're talking about the Andres Gimenez trade. Um, when it came across my notification from Jeff Passan, my initial thought was, what in the world just happened? And then not only that, it was a weird night because we got a player back that we ended up then trading for
We
Luis
flipped
Ortiz.
him. We
Yeah,
flipped him after what? 2 hours, 3 hours,
it was,
Mr. Spencer Horowitz.
yeah, it may have even been longer than that. So there was a lot of discussion on Twitter about how does Horowitz fit? Does this mean he's a second baseman, first baseman? Does this mean that there's a Josh Naylor trade? A lot of people were saying like the three of them aren't going to be able to coexist for that long. But the big piece that the Guardians got back, along with three prospects, was starting pitcher Luis Ortiz from the Pittsburgh Pirates, who Spencer Horowitz went to. So you ended up trading Andres Gimenez for three prospects, two of them starting pitchers, and then a starting pitcher who will be on your rotation for this coming year. So, like you said, there was a aspect of let's figure this out. Like, why are they doing this? Then there was also a report. Ken Rosenthal talked about it a little bit and had a report about what their thinking was. So, this argument about Andres Gimenez has basically been divvied up into two parts. There's one argument of people saying he doesn't hit anymore. He hasn't hit since 2022, and then when he got the extension, and his offensive production has fallen off. And then there's the other side that says, well, yeah, but he's a platinum glover and he steals 30 bases and his defense is amazing and you should be able to afford this contract kind of thing. So I think it's and keep in mind too, and I understand this completely. Andreas Jimenez was a fan favorite. He had a lot of fans. So this one just kind of on a personality aspect, this one hurts a bit. This one stings. If your kid's favorite player was Andres Gimenez, I met Andres Gimenez personally. Super nice guy. Got an autographed baseball from him. It's a tough one. Um, but I think this falls into several parts. That offensive production has completely fallen off since 2022 when they gave him the extension. This year, he is due $10 million. Next year, he's due 15. And then after that, you have 4 years. One of them is a club option of owing him 23 million a year. And the report from Ken Rosenthal was that the Guardians thought that if he has one more bad season offensively, you'll never be able to trade him. And so that was their initial
Interesting theory.
that seems to be their thought was that they had to make this move now. Also, keep in mind, Travis Bazzana, your number one overall pick last year, is also a second baseman. Now
And he's pretty good.
you could have said, all right, well, Brian Rocchio could be the odd man out there, and you move Gimenez over to shortstop and those kinds of things. But you have a a second baseman who was the number one overall pick, and with the number one overall pick, you're expecting him to be like a Bryce Howard kind of like player.
You said Bryce Harper, you mean?
Harper, sorry, excuse me.
I'm like, Bryce Howard. I'm like, wait a minute. Is this? I don't know who that is.
Bryce Harper,
Bryce Harper.
yes.
Yeah, you're looking for a guy to make an immediate impact, and all signs are pointing to the Guardians fast tracking him through the majors, where if he doesn't make the club this year out of spring training, he'll go directly to AAA, and it's just a matter of time before he comes up. That's what
Yeah,
everybody is looking at.
I would guess not until like September for Bazana. There's going to be a stopgap there, and we'll get into
Oh yeah.
that, and we'll get into that more on who's going to be playing second base in the interim. But so you have, a second baseman in waiting, and like I said, I know there you could argue, well, Rocchio is probably not a long-term guy, or maybe he could be based on playoffs, whatever. So Gimenez moves over to shortstop, and then Bazana plays second base. There was other options to go there, but they with that money too, and we'll see how this goes. A lot of people are not convinced that it'll happen. I see no reason why it won't. But then can they take that money and reallocate it for future years and get other players? Can you help that offense production? And I am leaning a bit on the side of the argument of his offense has just completely fallen off. Let me pose it this way, and unfortunately I hate to kind of drag other guys in the mud, but this is sort of this is sort of relevant to the whole conversation of the offseason.
Yeah.
Who does Will Brennan need replaced in the outfield?
I would say so.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
not sold on Will Brennan
Well,
just
but
yet.
that's a position in right field that we've been talking about the Guardians need to upgrade this offseason, right? Will Brennan
Hmm.
hit better than Andres Gimenez?
Oh, wow. That I
What do
was
you
not
think?
expecting.
What do you think of Estevan Florial?
I don't know. He's in Korea now. Congrats to him. Signed a contract with a Korean team, and he'll probably resurrect his career out there. He
Yeah,
didn't do well for us.
no, not really. He was only on the team for a little while. His OPS was only .007 points lower than Andreas Jimenez's.
Are you going to hit better than? Oh my gosh, I knew that was coming. So okay,
All
yeah,
right, so you get my point there, and I understand Platinum Glover. I understand defense. Ground ball guys for your pitchers and all sorts of those kinds of things. But you know, I was gonna say, what did a sin against the Yankees? A lot of things did a sin against the Yankees, but
yeah.
it was
The
matching their
there you
firepower,
yeah.
partially. So you need, and the argument has been, Jimenez is batting seventh. Can you replace the seventh hole hitter? Yeah, I think you can, and we'll see what
Yeah.
comes of that. So, um, not to mention the other part of this is what did we say we also needed for this offseason? We needed starting pitching, right?
We need some depth. We need some, yeah, we our starting pitching was not great last year. Obviously, innings pitched, you love for a starting pitcher to go six, maybe 7 innings. We didn't get that hardly at all.
Well,
We needed some help.
Luis Ortiz is going to move into this rotation, and I sent you an interview. It was from, I think it was on WTAM. It was from a Pittsburgh beat writer, and he was saying that you plug Ortiz into the Cleveland pitching factory, and he's going to become an all-star. Maybe not this season, but he's going to become an all-star. And
We'll take
you
that.
you have him for a long time. Not only that, we've seen they obviously had to get a little creative here in terms of getting a starting pitcher because we saw two of our old friends, Matthew Boyd and Alex Cobb, get
Yeah.
astronomical amounts of money for limited production last year.
Everybody talks about it this year. It's going to be overpayment for pitching because everybody knows it, everybody needs it, and there's a demand. What happens when there's a demand?
The prices
Price
go
goes
up.
up. And
So
that's exact. You tell me Alex Cobb was worth 15 million.
no, and I know people
Matthew
were,
Boyd got
th-
a ton from Chicago.
yeah,
He pitched well here,
he did.
but I still think he got a bit of an infatuated contract. Basically, it was bigger than it needed to be.
Well, we re-signed Shane Bieber. That's kind of lost in the shuffle of the Andres Gimenez trade. We brought him back for 1 year with a second year player option, and hopefully he takes it. So it would end up being 2 years. But I'd rather have 2 to 3 months of Shane Bieber at the same price as what Boyd is getting.
Yeah. And I
Um,
shout out to Shane Bieber because there are many reports that are stating that he received better offers and more money from other teams, but still
yeah,
chose to come back to Cleveland.
and one of those was supposedly Detroit, and I guess we could gather that got the same offer Alex Cobb did, the 15 million.
Which that's crazy because in my opinion, Bieber, if
Sure.
he's healthy, can be one of the most dominant pitchers in the game, and I'm hoping he refines his form very quickly this
But
year.
and we've gotten off on a tangent on Bieber, so I'll finish this thought on Bieber and then we'll go back to the Jimenez deal. But um yeah, I take that kind of stuff with a little bit of a grain of salt, when they say, "Oh, so and so took, more." I'm sure his agent said that because his agent wants to make it look like that, he got a better offer on the table and it could have been $500,000, it could have been 1 million, but in the grand scheme of things, this is where Bieber was comfortable, and we had talked about that. And I expected him to re-sign here because he's going to want to be with our training staff. He's comfortable with the team. He's going to want to be back with Carl Willis. So then, if he does have a good season, a Matt Boyd like season return,
Yeah.
well, then he can parlay that into more money. He'll recoup that money in term of a better contract and a longer term contract. So but with the Jimenez deal, with what we saw with what Bieber got, Alex Cobb, they clearly had to get a little more creative and make a trade for a starting pitcher to get more rotational depth. And then on top of that, now that they have moved off of the Jimenez deal and the Jimenez money, there was a report from John Heyman that the Guardians have been talking to Sean Manaea. So they could continue to add to the rotation
He's a
re
lefty. I'll take him.
and reallocate those resources. I mean, talk about completely redoing your rotation in
Yeah.
three moves if you do something like that.
Well,
So,
clearly Toronto wanted nothing to do with Pittsburgh and wanted no part of their prospects or anything if Pittsburgh was interested in Spencer Horwitz. Cleveland gets him. Pittsburgh immediately probably picks up the phone and they're like, "Hey, uh, name your price. We want this guy. We want him to play first base. You've got a logjam at first base." I'm sure the conversation was about Manzardo, Naylor, and
yeah,
they eventually settle on Horowitz, and
I think I
we get
think
a good pitcher.
I think that went maybe a different direction. I want to say that we went out and said we want Ortiz, and Pittsburgh said, "Okay,
Ooh,
we don't want Josh Naylor. He's on a 1 year deal, but we'll take Kyle Manzardo." And we were like, "No, we're not giving you Manzardo. He's our guy." And then we said, "Hang on one sec. Let's go get you a first baseman that you want, and then give us Ortiz." I feel like it
that's
probably went something like that.
however it happened, it's
Yeah.
great. Three team trades are awesome when they happen. There's a lot of moving parts that has to equal, and I'm sure team. I mean, obviously the winter meetings are ongoing. This is
So
going to be the first of many moves from multiple teams. We saw today, you text me shortly before we started to record, the Yankees traded Nestor Cortez and one of their prospects to the Milwaukee Brewers for Devin Williams, the all-star
yeah,
closer. So New York knows that they had a problem in their bullpen. They went and addressed it. Devin Williams is a phenomenal closer. Will he do the same in New York? Who knows? But giving up Nestor Cortez, that's not something to just look away from. It's a
yeah.
big trade.
And we've heard from multiple people that they expect more moves out of the Guardians, whether it's more trade or you're hearing rumors of, all right, they're reaching out to these free agents. Um, Andre Knott said that he expects more moves. Jason Lloyd said he expects moves.
Yeah.
Probably, I
Could
think
we
Zach
though
Meisel
take
had
some
mentioned.
of couldn't we take some of the money that we saved by getting rid of Mr. Gimenez? Could we start talking about extensions for maybe Stephen Kwan, Tanner Bybee,
Yeah,
Josh Naylor?
I
Like,
agree.
could we
Sure.
see that happen, or do you think it's going to be more of a we're going to have to go externally to improve this team? We're going to need to make some moves, and Jimenez may not be the only fan favorite that leaves.
So I want both. I
Yeah,
see no reason why
we
they
all
can't
do.
do both because for I've been keeping track of it. So the Guardians right now, including what is projected for arbitration, the payroll is at about 90 million for this season.
That's
So,
that's low.
well, it was 106 last year. It's gone up
Yeah,
every year since the pandemic. It was 106 last year, so I expect them to do a little bit better than last year. So let's say if we even put it at 115, so it's about 10 million more than last year. That means that they still have 25 million more to spend for this year. And then you have the future savings of the Jimenez deal that you could extend Quan. So I think both is absolutely on the table. And those, the guys that I mentioned, the talk has mostly been about upgrading that right field spot. So that's why I brought up Mr. Will Brennan, because we essentially there's talk about, okay, well, Lane Thomas is on basically a 1 year deal. He's arbitration. So, and then you have Chase DeLauder who's going to be coming up. But you essentially, if you want to compete for next year, DeLauder's not going to be a guy that you can count on. Same as Bazana's not going to be a guy you can count on for next year. You need more players. And so the right field spot was mentioned. Now, before I get into a trade scenario that I kind of like and I conjured up based on some things that I had heard, you had said that you are now happy about this trade. Explain.
I am. So I must apologize. I got Luis Ortiz confused with Ramon Ortiz from that's where the 30-year-old conversation started when I texted you. I completely got confused. Once I did a little bit of research, this guy last year went 7-6, had a 332 earn run average. He had a WAR of 3.0. In his career, he has a 3.6 WAR, 12 wins, 13 losses, but he played for the Pirates, folks. And no offense to the fans in Pittsburgh. No offense to my friends that root for the Pirates. The Pirates have not been good. So I like this trade. I really do because yes, Andres Gimenez probably one of my favorite players aside from Bieber, Quan, Josh Naylor. He's up there, top 5 easily. But baseball is a business. Cleveland gave Andres Gimenez a very lucrative extension. When you give somebody an extension, you expect a great ROI, a return on investment. Other than the defense side of it, we weren't getting that. Yes, he gave us some great memories. He is a phenomenal defender. And I don't think there's anybody in our organization that would say different. He is phenomenal on defense. He is going to be very hard to replace. I look at him kind of like I looked at Omar Vizquel. Made phenomenal plays, but Omar Vizquel wasn't hitting 300 and hitting home runs. He was stealing bases. He was great defensively, but you really couldn't count on him a lot on the offensive side. And maybe Andres Gimenez goes to Toronto and he gets sandwiched between Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero, among others, on that team, and he may flourish. You never know. Change of scenery.
So speaking of Bo Bichette,
However, yeah,
um,
I'm surprised that wasn't the name we got in return. Just that was the one guy I thought, and I was like, wow, Brian would be over the moon if
I
we
would.
got Bo Bichette to play short.
But I saw on the MLB guys on MLB Network were talking about that they feel like that this Jimenez trade for Toronto is an insurance policy for when Bichette walks.
Because they can move Gimenez to short, which is
Yes.
his natural position. When we traded for him, that he was a shortstop. Now, really quick, just because I love playing devil's advocate, and I'm going to do it anyway. Who won the Francisco Lindor trade now? Because Lindor's a Met. We don't have Ahmed Rosario anymore. We don't have Andres Gimenez anymore. And we really
TBD.
haven't heard from the other two prospects that were picked up in that deal. Did we lose this trade?
It's still TBD. I mean, if
Okay.
Ortiz is an all-star pitcher,
But that's not we're talking just the Lindor trade.
but now the
I
Jimenez tree is part of that now
okay, so
because it
you're gonna bring the tree in.
well
Okay.
right you have to. I mean, in terms of like production, Jimenez had that great year in 2022. So you have the 3 years of the Jimenez production, and now you're going to have the Ortiz production because essentially the other part of that was let's put it this way also. Look at Juan Soto with the Yankees. Juan Soto, the Yankees trade for Juan
It's a
Soto,
you just swore. That's just such a horrible name.
but
We don't need to
but
talk about him. But
hear
that
me out.
man, yes.
But hear me out. Juan Soto gets traded to the Yankees. The Yankees give up prospects, players, and such. They're only able to retain him for 1 year. We're not thinking about the Lindor trade the same way if the Mets aren't able to re-sign him. If he goes to another team, then the Guardians completely win that trade. And that
Yeah.
was a possibility that
That's
Lindor could have left in free agency.
did he sign I think he signed an extension with the Mets, did he not?
He did, but not right away. He signed his
Nah,
arbitration
that's true.
deal, and
That's
then
true.
he was technically a free agent.
Yeah.
So he signed his
Who
arbitration
knows?
deal first.
Frankie Lindor could walk through that door again, Guardians fans. He could. You never know. In the world of
I
baseball,
don't
you
know
can
about
never
that.
say never.
Yeah.
I will never say
I
never.
think the Mets are going for it now.
Oh, they're going
Um,
all in when you give almost $800 million to one man. I mean that they expect the world, and good luck
uh,
to the Mets. I'm going to remind you that just because you have an unlimited amount of income does not guarantee you a World Series, although the
oh,
Dodgers did it
exactly.
last year.
They're
The
going to
Dodgers
be
did it last year.
the microscope is going to be on that team for sure. Are you ready for my trade proposal?
I'm ready. Let's see if I'll make this
You
deal.
know,
I'll pretend to be the GM.
it's funny.
Let's go.
Actually, I kind of take that back. It's not a trade proposal. It's just a trade that I want. I don't even know what I would say that the
It's
Guardians should
wishful
give.
thinking. You would like to make this trade if you could.
Well, I didn't even consider like what I'm giving up. It's just it's a good trade partner, and
Oh,
I think
okay.
these two players make sense for us. So we need a
Okay.
stopgap second baseman, right? If it's not Juan
We do.
Brito, we need a stopgap second baseman. We could still probably use some starting pitching, right?
Yeah.
Jason Lloyd of The Athletic had mentioned that the Guardians may be interested in Tampa Bay's Jeffrey Springs.
Left-handed
Okay.
pitcher. He very good. Yep.
So give
There's
me,
another guy on Tampa Bay. I think I know where you're going with this.
how about Brandon Lowe? Give me Jeffrey Springs and Brandon Lowe.
Is it Low? Is it Lau? Like I always get confused with his last name.
Well,
I
either
don't know
way,
because there's another one on the team that it's the same last name but it's pronounced differently.
oh, so yeah, the two get mixed up.
They do.
Yeah.
But yes,
Um,
he's a power hitting former all-star second baseman. He's got a lot of pop, although the batting average is not usually phenomenal. His batting average usually hovers around 220, 230, maybe
you're
240.
right. He was 230 the year before, 220 and 22, but he was up to 240 last year, but a 783 OPS. And
I
since we've been talking about our boy
would take him.
Andreas, um, his batting average was 252, but he had a 638 OPS. So essentially,
What if what if you could make this deal, but Lowe doesn't play second base because his secondary positions are the corner outfield spots.
You could do that too.
Does that make it a little bit more enticing?
Well, do both. I mean,
Yeah.
get him, and then you like start with Brito off, and if he struggles, then you move low to second base.
Yeah. I'm
He's
excited
also
for Juan Brito. I'm
he's
very excited. I want to see what we have in him.
yeah, when you got him for Nolan Jones, you expect, and Nolan Jones did well in Colorado, that following year. You
You and
expected
I would
hopefully
do well in Colorado. I think you and I could go out there and swing, and our batting averages would improve because we're hitting in Coors Field. I'm just saying.
maybe.
I love when people use that logic where they're, oh, it's Colorado, and oh, he did well. Did he? Did he? I think he hit better on the road than he did at home last year for Nolan Jones before he got hurt.
Yeah, he was
I think
better
he
on the
hit better
road.
on the
Yeah.
road. Yeah.
Anyway, but the reason low makes sense too.
What would you give up to get him though? That would be the
Yeah, I was
question.
thinking about that because Tampa probably wants to get younger. They want to get a little bit cheaper. I don't know what kind of value somebody like Arias would have for them.
Mhm.
Um, you
Maybe.
know, would if you're going to get low as a stopgap to Bazana, is then Juan Brito a part of that discussion? I'd be fine with
Mhm.
that. Do you give up a higher end prospect because of the pitcher, like a Churio? Like who I'm not sure, what they would be interested in, but I
I
think
think there'd be a lot of fans that would be very upset if Churio disappears. I think they want to see what this kid can do. Same with Kafis. There's a lot of names coming up, but second base isn't necessarily Juan Brito's position. There's another guy that could potentially take that second base job. We saw him last year. He filled in admirably at the top of the order when Stephen Kwan was gone, and that's Angel Martinez.
yeah.
So spring training is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, if
I
they
would
don't
love
make a
it
move,
if,
there
yeah,
are internal options, and then you could even say maybe even Tyler Freeman would get a look at least in spring
Freeman.
training. Um, Ideally, I don't know. I would love a little more proven stopgap in that
Yeah,
spot.
I get you.
Like
I
I
get
said
that.
with Lowe, um, and then like you said, if you do start off with Brito and Brito's fine, well, all right, put Lowe in the outfield, and you've figured that out too. But there's still a lot of options out there for this team to make moves, and I do think we are going to see more. The player that was at the top of my list the last time we spoke, Anthony Santander, he's still available. Um,
And Cleveland is rumored to be interested in speaking with him, depending on what his asking price is.
I had heard or I had read, the projection was about 20 million a year, and if that's what you were going to pay Jimenez in a couple of years, I don't see any reason why we
Yeah.
couldn't do that. We gave Josh Bell, I believe, was it 16 or 18? We gave Edwin Encarnacion 20 a year. So I don't see that that's out of Cleveland's price range for a switch hitting right fielder that you could play in that spot every single day.
That's very true. It'll
And
be
he'd hit you
extremely
30
interesting.
plus home runs.
Yeah, I'd be ecstatic. Well, Brian, before we go, there are two other pieces, well, actually three more quickly pieces of information. Guards Fest, obviously, as a Cleveland Guardians fan, they changed Guards Fest from a yearly event to now an event that will be held every 3 years. As someone who has been to multiple Guards Fests, quickly, what are your thoughts? I know I think it's a bad idea right off the rip.
I, I don't I I don't care what it costs them. The PR, the bad PR that brought, and then to blame the fans that it was like based on feedback.
And then the next
It
day you trade Andres Gimenez. It's
right.
not a great look.
Like, what are you guys doing? Like, do they not care? Or do they not think about this stuff at all? Like,
Yeah,
if it costs them $1 million or whatever, like, so what? Is that really worth
we came
everybody
out
being
the
pissed at
fans
you?
came out in droves to that stadium this year
Like,
and supported the Guardians.
I don't know. And then there was rumors that like the players don't like it because they don't want to come back in January. And then, so I don't know. It like. every 3 years, it's really
Seems like
really
a lot.
odd.
Yeah, it seems
Um,
like a long time. I
but
hope
there
they
there was
reconsider.
also a theory that maybe they just forgot to schedule it because the convention center, if you look at the schedule, was pretty booked up. And there
Right.
wasn't an open spot. Like, and now who knows how long ago they would have had to have booked it. And maybe they told the convention center 2 months ago that they weren't going to do it. And they finally just told us now. But I think that was dumb. I don't get their logic there. I've gotten surveys about Guards Fest, as a quarter season ticket holder and those things. And I can't imagine there, I don't know. There wasn't really questions in there that I recall about like, would you come, you know, would this be better for you if it was every other year? Like to me, the biggest thing was that people pay a lot of money for autographs for guys that they don't know who they're getting their autographs for. And a lot of times it's like one key player and then two prospects that they don't really know. Like you and I know them, but it'd be like two prospects that most people don't know. And then, like for example, um, one I was irritated about, my wife got a Will Benson's autograph and he was traded like a month later. So,
It
stuff like
happens. I mean, it's
that
a business. Things will happen. I'm interested to see if they'll change their mind.
based
I'm
on the
interested to see if
based on the
they'll
feedback. Yeah.
do something. Right.
It maybe not this year because it might be too late to schedule anything. But yeah, I would wonder because it's not going to be until after the 2026 season. So it would be
Yeah.
2027. I would be curious to see if they
We'll
bring it
see.
back for next year based
Maybe
on
they didn't want to do
based on the
Guards Fest because
backlash.
they didn't know which players would still be on the team, and they didn't want to announce anything. Maybe that's it. Who knows?
I
I
mean,
mean,
I guess.
the possibilities are endless.
But like
Huge shout out.
when we signed Josh Bell,
Yeah,
he was at the next Guards Fest. Like he was
he
there,
was.
what was it, like a month later, he was there and he brought his Silver Slugger award and everything. And
Well, we'll see what happens. I think the Guardians would be smart to listen to the fans. They are speaking very loudly that they
yeah,
disagree with
they
this
have the
whole
right to
thing.
be
Yeah.
irritated by that one. And it's not helping the stigma of you being cheap. It's not helping at all.
That's as soon as we traded Gimenez, that was all that we saw. Oh, there's Dolan being cheap again. Oh, Dolan's a cheapskate. Oh, he's frugal. He's not paying. I'm not getting into that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be nice.
All right,
Some
go ahead.
positivity. Shout out to Cleveland Guardians radio announcer Tom Hamilton for being this year's Ford C. Frick Award winner. Kudos to you, the GOAT of radio broadcasting. I mean, Tom Hamilton is incredible. That's why I will listen to him until the day that I die, or I should say until the day that he dies, whichever happens first. Tom Hamilton is incredible. And for Major League Baseball to see that, and that award is given to, I believe, the top broadcaster who also does other things like what he provides for the game itself. So Tom Hamilton is incredible. We know that we've gotten to talk to Rosie quite a bit, his partner. I would love to get them both. I would love at some point to talk to Tom Hamilton and Jim Rosenhaus at the same time in the same room. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to talk to Rosie. I'm going to pull some strings. I want it to happen, and I think we'll have
Man,
to do it
the
before
same
this season
time.
starts.
Wow. That'd be
Yes,
that'd
I
be
would love to get
something.
them both. I think it would be a lot of fun. And then
So I
a bit of
wonder
sad news, but I'll wait. Go ahead.
Well, I wonder if the Guardians had an idea because about a month ago, if you had donated to their charities, they were handing out Tom Hamilton bobbleheads,
That's
and
awesome.
and he's
That's fantastic. I love that.
he's
I
got the
absolutely do.
he's got the little voice box in there that you can hear some of the phrases. So super cool.
That's awesome. But a bit of sad news as a Cleveland Indians legend passed away a few days ago, Rocky Colavito. I know that you and I are a bit younger. We may not have followed Rocky Colavito. We may not have seen him play, but he is will forever be a legend for the Indians, now the Guardians. So a tip of the cap to you, Rocky Colavito, for what you did when you were here with Cleveland. We don't have a statue of him yet. I'm a little shocked. Maybe one's coming. We have Tommy. We have Bob
Yeah,
Feller.
I don't. He's got a plaque, I believe, in Heritage
He
Park.
does. He
And then
does.
there's in I don't even know what they're calling it now, but over in left field in the corner, like there's some like banners and stuff on the inside,
Hmm.
um, where they're doing renovations and stuff. So there are some homages to Rocky. But yeah, sad to hear that, and that all kind of came. It was just like a flurry of a couple of days of all of this stuff
Yeah.
happening.
I think he
Um,
passed on Monday. Tuesday happens where Gimenez gets traded. Wednesday, Tom Hamilton gets the award.
Guardfest
Monday
canceled on
was when
Monday.
Guards Fest gets canceled. Like it was just a few days in a row of just horrible, horrible Cleveland news, and then some positive news, and then more horrible news. Like we need a break.
Yeah.
Can we get a
Well, and
break? Can
then
we get a couple days?
and Bieber was several days before that because Bieber
I
was
know
locked
it
up
was.
before
Yeah,
the winter meetings. But yeah, I hope that we get some more news here. I hope you made it to the ALCS. There's no reason that you shouldn't be investing in this team and trying to push forward. The Yankees no longer have Juan Soto. He's not in the American League, so I think the path is just as likely to get there as it was
and
last year, and you're making upgrades to the rotation, but there's still some places that you can continue to upgrade, and I hope they do.
and then other teams are obviously getting better too. So Cleveland, you've got to do your part. Continue to put a great product on the field, and the fans will come. We did it last year. I see it continuing. And the Browns suck, folks. So you've got the Cavs that are really good. You've got the Guardians that are really good, and the Browns are the Browns. So we're gonna move up in the order of how Cleveland sees their sports teams, I think, here really quick. But join us as soon as more news breaks. Brian and I will bring it to you. We're happy to do it. We're happy to talk about it. Adios to Andres Gimenez. Hello to Mr. Ortiz, not Ramon Ortiz, Luis Ortiz. Welcome to the Guardians. Can't wait to see what they do. Brian, where can they find you and us?
I'm at WXSHAW on X on Twitter. It is Bryan Shaw on Facebook. We are Guardcast MLB on Twitter and then MLB Guardcast on Facebook. You can listen to us on Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube.
We're everywhere, folks. If you'd love to listen to us, you can see what we look like. You can watch us. Or if you don't want to stare at our ugly mugs and you just want to listen to what we have to say, that's what Spotify's for. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Mike Vorhies. You can see my spelling there. If you need help, message me. I'll help you. I'll find you. I'll send you a friend request. And then you don't have to search anymore. But as always, Brian, super fun to talk to you. It is the off season. The Guardians are making moves. That means baseball season's slowly approaching. We'll be talking about pitchers and catchers reporting before you know it, spring training, and then we're back to baseball. So we'll see, Guardians. Keep your ears to the ground. We will keep our faces embedded in our social media until we can give you all of the Cleveland Guardians news that you deserve. Until next time, hopefully more good news, right?
Yeah, there's still a lot of good players still available. Hopefully, we hear something in January after the holiday season, and we'll be with you then. Talk to you soon.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. God bless all of you. Happy holidays. See you
Take
soon.
care.